Diolch.
I thank the Counsel-General. The next item is the topical questions, and the first question comes from Julie Morgan.
Diolch. What are the implications for Wales following the decision to hold a public inquiry into the contaminated blood scandal?
Thank you for the question. I welcome the announcement yesterday by the United Kingdom Government of a UK-wide inquiry into the circumstances of this tragedy. We all need to know the truth about what happened, so it's important that those affected have their say about the inquiry's approach and remit. I've previously called for such an inquiry, and I've written today to the Secretary of State for Health and expect full engagement with those affected in Wales.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that response. Campaigners and members of the Assembly Cross-Party Group on Haemophilia and Contaminated Blood, many of whom have campaigned for 30 years for this public inquiry, have told me that the inquiry must have the power to compel witnesses, as previous inquiries did not. There must be full disclosure of documents because it's alleged that some of these have been destroyed and that medical records were destroyed or tampered with. They want to know why blood products continue to be used and warnings were ignored and patients weren't informed of the risks, why alternative treatments weren't used, why mild haemophiliacs were treated with concentrates, why commercial interests took precedence over public safety, why money allocated for self-sufficiency in blood was reallocated elsewhere, why self-sufficiency of blood supplies took 13 years in the UK but only 5 years in Ireland, why Lord Owen and Lord Jenkins' departmental papers were destroyed under a 10-year rule which does not exist. They want to know information about the Department of Health's inaccurate self-sufficiency in blood products report, which was published in 2006, and they also want the role of the pharmaceutical companies to be investigated. Those are some of those issues. How is the Cabinet Secretary going to use his role to ensure that these people who have suffered so much, bearing in mind that 70 people in Wales died, 273 were infected, and so many others have had their lives ruined. How will you be able to ensure that they have their say in the process, that they are able to have their voices heard? Because the Prime Minister has said that she wants an inquiry that will be what the families want, and I think it is absolutely essential that people from Wales do have their say. Finally, I think that you have partly covered this, but did the Prime Minister or the Health Secretary contact you before actually making this announcement yesterday? And I note that you have written to Jeremy Hunt today, but how do you see your involvement in how this inquiry is going to shape up? Because we do know that there have been quite a lot of difficulties in deciding on types of inquiries for disasters that have happened, and obviously I think it's crucial that this comes out with clear answers, because the people who've been affected in this tragic way deserve the truth.
Thank you for the follow-up question. I want to start by recognising in response not just Julie Morgan's role in campaigning on this issue whilst a member of this Assembly and chair of the cross-party group, but also from her previous years in Parliament with a real and active interest in this issue and the scandal that has affected people right across the United Kingdom, including here in Wales. And this has been an issue where, again, there's been cross-party interest both in Parliament and in this Assembly. I'll start with your final point, if you like, about the links between the two governments. And I have to say this is one where I'm hoping that there will be a more respectful relationship between the administrations. I previously wrote to Lord Pryor on the 20th of October 2016 about this issue, following a response the Prime Minister gave to Diana Johnson and Prime Minister's question in September of that year. I didn't receive a response. I then wrote to Jeremy Hunt on the 20th of December 2016, and I didn't receive a response to that letter either. If there is to be generally what the UK government have announced they want to see, which I welcome, a genuine inquiry that listens to the people directly affected and involved, and in response to my constituency colleague Stephen Doughty in Parliament yesterday, the government again indicated they wanted devolved administrations to be properly involved. And that does mean there needs to be a difference in approach. Rather than simply deciding the remit for themselves at the Department of Health for a UK-wide inquiry, to be a rather more genuine engagement, not just with the government, but with the families and the victims themselves as well. Because if another inquiry is provided that does not have the power to compel witnesses, that does not provide full and proper disclosure, it won't just simply be a missed opportunity. It will create further anger and mistrust from a group of people that have not been well treated for many years in the past. So the announcement is welcome, but getting it right and getting the terms right and generally listening to the families affected and to the involved administrations is really important. I completely agree on the broad outline about the need for compulsion of witness and disclosure, and I certainly hope we can come to a proper agreement on that so the inquiry will retain full public confidence as it undertakes its work.
Angela Burns.